Welcome, Bent Riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laidback Bike Report. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you joined us today. We're coming to you live from our studios in Pickerington, Ohio, where we produce this webcast on a monthly basis. It can be watched live right now as you are doing, or for those of you who can't make the show live, you can watch it later on YouTube. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you look down in the lower right-hand corner there, you'll see a little red subscribe button. Please hit that, subscribe to our channel. You get the notifications when we go live. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you will see a little letter I, which stands for information. That information will take you to our website. That little link for information will take you to our website. And it'll fill you in on all the things that we do at the Laidback Bike Report, our past shows, future shows, and that sort of thing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. We hope you'll participate in the live chat that we provide for you here during the show. This is YouTube live chat. And if you're on the YouTube channel right now watching us, you can look right over here and you should see a box that says live chat. And I see we've got a bunch of people on already. So please jump in and ask your questions. You can chat with our panelists. We had a bunch of them on today. And make yourself part of the program. We would really like you to do that. If you happen to be on Bentrider, Facebook or Twitter and watching this right now, that's fine that you watch there, but you can't do the live chat from there. So click through to the YouTube icon in the lower part of your watch box there, and you can go on through to YouTube and find the live chat there. Okay, so on today's webcast, I think you're going to find it to be an interesting show. We have an interview with a very special guest who I will introduce in a few moments. We have Bryan with us, as usual, with the Laidback News Report. He's got 3 interesting new trikes to talk about. Lots of stuff for him to report to you today, so stay tuned for that. Denny's got a report from the sports desk, of course, and he'll be talking about some ultra cycling races and the HPV World Championships going on at Battle Mountain right now. So we'll have some late information on that. And Dana hopefully will be with us. Yep, I think he's joining us right now, actually. Dana will be with us with the Tech Mech report. And today is going to be about when the rubber meets the road. So we hope you'll stay tuned for Dana's report as well. Okay, so today's show is brought to you by Schlitter Bikes. John and Jackie Schlitter have opened a new shop in Spring Hill, Florida. Now, it turns out that one of their very first customers was a lady named Irma, unfortunately. So they do have a lot of exciting news about their product line and their new digs, which they'll share just as soon as they're back up and running after the hurricane. So stay tuned to future shows and reports on Facebook from the Schlitters on Schlitter Bikes. At this time, I would like to introduce the panelists that we have with us today. First, from Salzgitter, Germany, our webcast director, Lars Kamm. Welcome, Lars.
Hi, Gary. Nice to be here.
It's really great to have you back. Lars has been away for a couple of months. We're happy to have him back, believe me. And then from Rochester, New York, the founder and editor of Bentrider and the anchor of our Laidback news desk, it's Bryan Ball. Hey, Bryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to have you here.
It's good to be back. It's been a little while.
Yeah, we were off for a month. You're right. Also, from let's go to Sayre, Pennsylvania, where our Laidback sports desk anchor, Denny Voorhees, is with us, perhaps. Denny, there you are. Hey, and we can't hear a word you're saying, but you're looking good, and we're glad you're smiling.
Oh, yeah, and I am. How's that?
Okay,
yeah,
that is much better.
Yeah, I had to get the other mute here.
No problem. Let's jump to Cold Spring, Kentucky, and still drying out from his race in London, the esteemed co-editor of Bentrider magazine and online, Larry Varney.
Glad to be back as well. And yeah, I think my bike is dry now. It's about time. But anyway, glad to be back online. See you all again, and just let us know.
Okay, it's great to have you back, Larry. Nice to see you're broadcasting from the igloo today, so that's great. And now from North Hollywood, California, our recumbent wrench and technology expert, the owner of Bent Up Cycles, Dana Lieberman. Hey, Dana.
Hey there, I'm actually at home today.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm glad to be here, and I got to go get my headphones.
All right, well, you can do that. You won't be on for a little while, so we'll get back to you on that. It's good to have you with us. All right, let's go to Wabasha, Minnesota, one of our new panelists. He's the author of Life in the Slow Lane, or Triking for Old People. One of the youngest old people I've ever met. It's Irv Risch. Hello, Irv.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
It's good to have you with us, Irv. Irv will be handling the slideshow today, and it's good to have a couple new panelists on to help us out. So we'll move along now to Raymond, Mississippi. Another member of our freshman class of panelists. He brings both IT and recumbent credentials to our show. I'd like you to meet Trey Burgoyne. Hi, Trey.
Howdy, y'all. Howdy, y'all. Glad to be here.
All right, it's good to have you, Trey. Trey is a riot. You guys will enjoy him when he gets on the screen. So we're glad to have you, Trey. All right. At this point, I'd like to introduce our special guest. I'm pretty sure that you have never met anyone quite like today's guest. Like so many people living in modern society, she found herself basically sleepwalking through her life, doing what almost everybody does every day. She lived in that comfort zone of eating, working, and entertaining herself in the same way and in the same location. She began to find that this routine prevented her from ever living the life of adventure that she had dreamed of since childhood. How she used recumbent trike touring and a new philosophy of living became the basis for her remarkable book, Fat Chick Goes AWOL. Folks, I'm very happy to introduce to you the Australian author and fellow bent rider, Anna Mitchell. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Gary. How you going?
Good. Well, so apparently a 6-second delay to the other side of the earth. So we'll try to tighten that up if we can. It's very good to have you, Anna. We're gonna start out asking a few questions here and show a few pictures, and let's see what we can do. Let's get on with the interview if we can. So first of all, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about Anna Mitchell, the early years. Tell us where you're from and about your early education and such.
Sure. I'm from Perth, which is the capital city of Western Australia. And Perth has the dubious honour of being the most isolated capital city in the world. And about 2 hours, it's 2 hours and about 20 years behind the rest of the country. And I grew up in Fremantle, which is where the America's Cup race was held after we stole it from you guys back in 1983. Education, I spent 4 years in university getting an accounting degree, but I don't really call that an education. The only thing I learnt there that was of any use was something that a law lecturer, who I hated and he hated me back, said, and that was, you don't have to know everything, you just have to know how to find out or figure it out.
Very good. And then after you graduated, you had a beginning of a professional career then. So that's not what you wanted to do, but tell us about the early professional career you had.
You mean before Planet Office?
Well, just go ahead and start there if you want.
Well, I did 12 years hard labour in Planet Office, starting as a data entry clerk reception, because when I graduated from university, it was the middle of a recession, so that university degree was worthless, and eventually worked my way up to doing systems accounting and process improvement. And I was a little bit different to the average office stiff in that I only did temp work, and everyone thought I was weird because I didn't want a permanent job. So I kept joking to the temp agency reps that the permanent job that I could handle hasn't been invented yet. And eventually I realized it was never going to be invented, so I'd just have to create it myself, which is what I'm doing these days.
Okay, and that kind of brings us to, we're going to talk about what you ended up doing to get out of that career and go on, but I want to briefly talk about the book. That's what really got our interest up in what you do, and I want to ask you about the name of your book and when did you write this book?
Yes, the name of the book is Fat Chick Goes AWOL, 2,600 miles in an armchair on wheels with a 600-mile detour on foot. I wrote the book in a week, a few months after the third AWOL, which is the long distance tours. I call them AWOLs. And that was back in 2005. And then it sat on my hard drive for nearly a decade until about 2 years ago when this random woman from England found my Facebook page and told me during a Skype call, you know, your posts are really funny. Why haven't you published your book yet? And I gave her all my excuses, and she said, basically, well, that's not good enough. Pull your finger out and get it done. And then I got off the phone and I thought, yeah, okay, it's time. And then, so I was I finally committed to it, but I was still pretty slack. So it took about another 18 months and I finally published it in December last year.
Wow. Okay. So it took a long time, but you did all this stuff, 8 or 10 years ago that got you started on this road, right?
Yeah. you blink and 5 years can disappear when you're not focused and paying attention.
We're all aware of that, that's for sure. Okay. I want to open up the discussion about your philosophy and what you did with an excerpt of your book that I think pretty much tells everyone where you're coming from with this book. So, Anna, if you would, could you read the excerpt talking about soft chains?
Soft Chains. Okay, so Soft Chains is a poem I read in a very old book by another West Australian author, Jesse Brampton. He was a farmer who was so miserable. He was lying on his bed one day. He was about to blow his brains out, and he decided he wasn't going to do that. He was going to go and through hike the Appalachian Trail instead, as you do. And while he was in America, he saw the poem on a bus shelter in Atlanta, and he quoted it in his book, and I thought it was really, really clever, and it stayed with me. So I can't actually see the slideshow. Has that come up now?
Let's put Irv. Can you get? Let's Trey. Can you get that up for us? Maybe. Let's. We need to get that up for Anna. I'm gonna ask you a question first until that comes up, and ask you how the recumbent trike became the tool that you used to break the soft chains that you broke. Or go ahead and read the excerpt. Now you can see it.
I still can't see it, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I can only see you.
All right, you should see it in a second. No?
As long as everyone else can see it, I can read the other bit.
Let's go ahead and do it.
Okay, so you can see the poem there, and my interpretation of that, as I've written in my book, is soft chains are the things that keep us shackled to the comfort zone, never sailing out beyond the safety of the harbour, never living our dreams, never knowing what might have been. A steady job, a regular pay packet, a comfortable house, a familiar routine, electricity, running water, reverse cycle air conditioning, friends, churches and groups, career advancement, social acceptance, the protection of the herd, a familiar city, favourite TV programs, the stuff we've spent a lifetime accumulating.
And so those are the soft chains that made you start thinking about changing your life, your lifestyle. And as part of that, you encountered a recumbent trike that kind of changed the way you were going to approach this. So I guess I'd like to know the story about that first encounter with the recumbent trike.
Okay, so I'd been wanting to cycle around the world for a few years. I'd gone to Europe when I was 19 for a year on a working holiday and did the trains, buses, all that sort of travel. And I thought, nah, it's just not doing it for me. And then I found out about human-powered traveling. People were cycling, they were hiking and so on. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to ride a bicycle around the world. And then I started riding a wedgie bike and realized that those things hurt. So that wasn't going to happen because I just couldn't ride them for very long. And then one day I discovered recumbents, and I also discovered that there was a trike maker right there in Perth. And so I trotted off to meet him, and he's the guy I call King Martoon in the book. So he were a Yorkshireman or a Lancashireman, I'm not sure. But he made trikes, and mostly trikes, in the shed in his backyard, which is where all the great stuff in Australia is made. And he had these two types of recumbent. One was a two-wheel recumbent, which I rode and I hated it. and the other one was a trike. And as soon as I sat down on that one, I knew that I found my chariot.
Very nice. Now, you called this, you called recumbent trikes armchairs on wheels, did you not? Was that your first impression of when you saw them?
No, that was just what I heard on the internet. I read on the internet that they were called.
Oh, that came from
but
that.
Yeah, it is. I said deck chair on wheels, but yeah, same thing.
What did you call you give a name to everything? If anyone who reads your book knows that you name every person, you give them another name, and inanimate objects, endure your nomenclature as well. So what did you name this trike?
Well, based on the Soft Chains poem, and this was kind of my breakout tool, so I called it Chain Breaker.
Very good. And let's go ahead and go. Trey, can you get the slide up for us for the trike, if you can? Those first three there, and we'll start talking about that. In the meantime, I want to mention to our viewers that we're looking at the live chat. If you're watching and you have some questions for Anna, if you've read her book or if you're just learning about what she does right now, please feel free to pop those questions onto the live chat, and we will bring those to her as we get along a little bit later on in the show. So, all right, let's see. Yep, that's the first one. Thank you, Trey. Okay, so Anna, tell us about this trike.
Okay, I had to go and look this up because, as you know, I don't do the techie stuff. But I went and got some information for you because I know there's a lot of guys who do the techie stuff who will be watching. So Chainbreaker is a tadpole trike that's basically a copy of a Greenspeed, but this one has 20-inch front wheels and a 26-inch back wheel. The luggage rack is welded to the frame rather than being bolted on, so that makes it much stronger. It has the standard 7 gears on the back chainring, and then it has a Sachs triple internal hub, and then it has a Schlumpf mountain drive. And the reason it has all those is because I suck at going up hills. And I said to King Martoon, I want 3 things. 1, build me a tank, because I'm really good at breaking things. 2, I want fire engine red frame and a yellow seat, because as all women know, the color of your chariot is the most important thing about it. And 3 was the lowest gears in the history of the free world, because I suck at going up hills. So he did all that. And then he also gave me what he called the big bum seat, because I have a big bum. And that was a really good idea, because if the seat's not wide enough, the side pieces of the frame will dig into your thighs, and that's not very comfortable.
Well, I know someone's going to jump in and ask this question. As I'm looking at these pictures, it doesn't look very red to me.
Well, being a boy, he's colorblind. And so instead of coming out fire engine red, it came out this gammy burnt orange color that he insisted was red, and I insisted was gammy burnt orange. So we had this big argument about that, and I said, you know, fire. He goes, oh, fire, it's fire red. Fire, you know, it's the same thing. I said, fiery red is not the same as fire engine red. If fire red was the same as fire engine red, we wouldn't be able to see the fire engines from the fire. And where would that get us? You know, but he insisted it was fire engine red. But anyway, so after a while, I just hated the color so much. And like I said, this is really, really important to girls. So I had it just resprayed black. So now it's the Bumblebee trike rather than the fire trike.
It's more of a neutral tone there. Yeah. All right.
Yes, black goes with everything.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about having to look some things up about your trike, and I know you've mentioned a few times that you're really not into the mechanical aspects of your trike. You want it to work, and you want it to do what you want it to do, which I think describes a lot of people. But you have to be somewhat mechanically inclined or have learned a little bit, because on that on those long trips that you took, you must have had to fix some things. So tell me how that went. How did the mechanicals go, and what did you do to fix things when you needed to?
Well, I started being able to change a tire, and that was about it. And I finished being able to change a tire, and that was it. So the man did what he was told and built me a tank, and that's all I really had to do was change some flat tires.
So other than that, you really didn't have any trouble on the thousands of miles that you traveled?
No, he built a damn good trike.
So I was going to ask questions about what did you want to know about the workings of your trike, and what did you end up knowing? So I think you already answered that. You didn't want to know anything, and you didn't learn anything. Is that a fair assessment?
I didn't care what the gear ratio was. I didn't care what the physics of it was. I didn't care about what kind of chromoly tubing thing, whatever it had. I just wanted something that was comfortable to ride and tough enough to withstand my talent for breaking stuff.
All right, let's go on to the next issue here. That is the storage of this trike over the years. You stored the trike.
You've been Facebook stalking me.
Yeah, tell us if you could. I don't know what to make of these pictures, so perhaps you can help. Let's start with this one. What the heck is this?
I still can't see the slideshow. So is that the one in the van or the storage?
No, this is like next to a refrigerator or something.
Okay. Well, first of all, I bought a van to drive it around in because, as you know, trike riders know, they don't exactly fit in the boot or the trunk. That's trunk for you Americans. And then when I moved to Melbourne, I ended up homeless for a few years, and I was living in my van. So obviously there was no room for that. So I had a storage unit. And I had so much stuff in the storage unit that it was really difficult to find room for the trike. And first I actually had it hanging from the rafters on little pulleys, and and that was kind of annoying. So it was hard to take it in and out. So I ended up just standing it up on its bum like that. So it's next to my fridge for a little while.
Let me, I'm wondering if you can't see the pictures. If you look down on the film strip, Anna, do you see a white box around any of our faces?
Yes, Gary.
Click that box with my face in it. And don't hurt me.
There we go.
Now can you see the picture?
Now I can see the van.
That's going to make a difference. Good. Okay, now tell us about the van.
There you go. The trike cost twice as much as the van, which I thought was pretty funny. So yeah, I bought the van to go on weekend trips and cart the trike around, and I ended up never being able to do that because I ended up homeless and I was living in the van rather than using it for weekend trips.
All right, that's a nice place to put it. Let's go to the next picture, please, Irv. Or Trey. There we go. And tell us about that.
Okay, so one of the more recent places the trike has lived. I now live in a paddock in a trailer in a paddock in central Victoria, just outside of Melbourne, and I build stuff out of pallets. So I built this huge room that I ended up calling the rubbish lounge, and so for a little while, Chainbreaker lived in there. He's now got his own trike garage, which is also made out of pallets, and it also doubles as a large workbench in the workshop that's also made out of pallets. So he's not in the rubbish lounge now.
That's
he has his own lounge.
Yeah, I guess that's a step up, I suppose. Okay, now from time to time, apparently, from what I've seen, you've used your trike for more than just transportation. Tell us about a couple other things that you might have used it for, and look at these pictures here, if you would.
That was when I broke my toe at the storage centre, slipped on some water, and that was so that's my toe foot all wrapped up in ice, and the front boom, the pedal where the pedal cranks are at the end of the front boom, it makes a pretty good footrest, so I had to keep my foot up.
So that was part of your therapy. Yep. And then
what sort of
therapy is this?
That was just in a park in St Kilda. That video that you've been sharing, the cameraman, that was just one of the shots I pulled off there. But when I was in Perth, I actually took it to an outdoor cinema once and made a pretty good outdoor cinema deck chair, BYO deck chair.
Yeah, you look pretty.
And of course, it's great when you're touring and you stop for lunch and you can eat your lunch. You know, you've got a chair to sit in and you can eat your lunch and have a little snooze before you ride the next 3 kilometers.
Okay. Okay. So speaking of riding the next 3 kilometers, let's go ahead and talk about what you call your AWOL. So you took, well, actually, in your book, you took 3 journeys. 2 of them specifically involved your trike. And we're going to talk about AWOL 1 and AWOL 3, which were the ones involving your trike. So let's start with AWOL number 1, and we'll start with this slide here. And if you can, point out to us where you started, where you ended up. Where did this trip go?
Okay, so this one was a, 700-mile cycle tour, starting from Perth, rode straight out my driveway, and ended up in Albany, which is a town on the south coast. And the photo in the background is a shot from the coastline of Albany.
Okay,
so
and
basically
then
followed the,
yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
just basically followed the coast all the way down to Albany.
All right, and I want to give you a little guidance here. So Irv has got the slideshow now. So let's go through the few AWOL 1 shots that you provided, and I know you wanted to talk a little bit about what you saw and what went on. So take a look at the shots you see on your screen, describe them to us as you will, and then just tell Irv to go to the next slide if you would. Now I'll kind of butt out for a little bit.
Well, one of the things I found quite entertaining as I was cycling along by myself was these roadside letterboxes on the farms and things like that. There's some very creative people out in the country. I'm now one of them, which is great. Next one, please, Irv. This was the Pemberton. Pemberton is a logging town in the southwest, and there was a youth hostel there that actually had a farm with some geese and whatnot, and they had some kangaroos and stuff like that. And this was the day, sorry, can you go back, Irv?
Yeah.
This was the 80-kilometer day, which I couldn't ride 80 kilometers at that time, and it was hilly, and I arrived just on dark, and I was absolutely shattered, and I staggered into reception, just about took the door frame with me as I walked in and as I walked out, and then finally got to the cabin, and there's steps. There always seem to be steps at the end of the hardest days on my AWOLs, and my legs just, my brain says one thing and my legs just do something else. Thanks, Irv. Next one. This was Augusta. This is the bottom of the west coast, and then you turn left to go towards Albany. So this is where the Southern Ocean and the Indian Ocean meet at this lighthouse.
And Anna, before you take the next step, maybe we haven't made it clear enough to our viewers. Can you tell everyone what sort of training regimen that you took on before you left for this AWOL?
Well, I thought about training, and I thought about training some more, and I was going to ride, I was going to up my distances by 10 kilometers every week. I was going to go for a ride every weekend, and none of that happened. So basically I just rode.
All right, next slide. I just want to make sure that you had that out there. Okay, go ahead.
That was Walpole. There's a world famous attraction in Walpole called the Treetop Walk. And I think I got a lift out there because I was too lazy to ride out there. So once I got to town, I didn't want to ride anywhere. It was so anyone offered a lift, yeah, sure, I'm there. Okay, so that was something I discovered on my first AWOL, was this thing called WWOOFing, which stands for Willing Workers on Organic Farms. So it's a work for accommodation scheme, and so you can stay at these places for free, and they feed you, and you just have to help them out with the farm stuff for a few hours a day. So in this place, I actually got to live in a shipping container for a few days. And little did I know that this was a tiny house, and some 15 years later, it would be my next dream to build a tiny house on wheels. I'm not going to do mine out of a shipping container, but that is one way that people do tiny houses. Mm-hmm. And one of my jobs on this farm was to help them put in this new water tank stand. The old one had rusted out and they had to replace it. So I got to dig post holes and mix cement and use a press drill and all sorts of cool stuff. And so that was a photo after we'd done that. And they also raised wildlife, so baby kangaroos whose mothers had been killed by cars. And so they had this little, I'm holding a little bundle called Orchid.
And Anna, if I could interrupt in just a second. Now, you also, as I recall from your book, you had your own encounter with Joey on the road, did you not?
No, it was a full-grown male kangaroo.
Oh, was it? Okay, but could you tell us that? Because that was...
I checked the pouch. It was just after I stayed with these people, and I checked the pouch because I learned from them that you should always stop and check the pouch in case there's a baby in there. And so this one turned out to be a boy. So there was no baby, fortunately, but the car people had completely snapped his thigh bone, so it was sticking out of the skin, and it was all kind of
this was on the ride. You were riding down the road and encountered this.
Yeah, riding down the road, saw a car pulled over on the other side, and they saw me go past, and they called out, "Hey, lunch just up the road for you there." And I was like, okay, great. So you've murdered Orchid's cousin's mummy or something. So yeah, so I had to go and check, and it just brought out the total girly, ew, I don't want to touch it aspect of me. But fortunately, it was a boy, so there was no baby.
Okay.
The other thing I also discovered in terms of work for accommodation at Denmark Youth Hostel was that you can also work for your accommodation at youth hostels. So there's a couple of ways that you can travel with very, very cheaply. And this girl was my roommate. This was Adi from Melbourne, and she was a graphic designer. And to pay for her room, she actually drew and painted this map of the town at the front door of the youth hostel, which I thought was pretty cool. Next one. And then just some more shots of the coastal town of Albany. So it took me 8 weeks to get to Albany because I'm the slowest cyclist in the history of the free world. And I don't think I believed that I could get to Albany until I was at Denmark, which is just down the road from Albany. So
the
yeah,
whole
finally
time
got to Albany,
you didn't think that you were going to be able to complete your AWOL.
I can't ride to Albany. I can't ride 1,000 kilometers, 700 miles. And then one day I turned up in Albany and I went, oh, maybe I can.
Yes, I don't believe that's how you put it in the book, but you certainly did. So let's if we can take a break here for a second, and I want to talk about the chat, and then we'll go on to your AWOL number 3 if we can. We've got lots of people on the chat. I wanted to say hello to Ken Kaiser, who apparently is attempting to watch this while riding his trike. Good luck on that, Ken. Damiana Day, who is a rider, I believe she is Australian, but I think she's in New Zealand. I could be wrong. Maybe she is from New Zealand, but she rides a trike all over New Zealand right now. And I think she probably knows, and she says a bit like living out of pannier bags in a tent. So I think she does a lot of the time. So we also have our friend Marco Ropers from Holland. Hello, Marco. Jim Pratt from Denmark. Oh, was that a Danish place that you were talking about? Wait, was that Denmark? That hostel, right?
Yeah, Denmark's a town in the southwest of Australia.
Right, but I'm drawing a connection here that means nothing. Okay, but I do know that he's from Denmark, so who cares about that? Okay, hi Jim. Zachary Mormon is with us. VeloVet 360, hello, and our buddy Terry Debliek from Brussels is with us. Partok 81, it's good to see you back on. And he's talking about tiny houses that are, he says they're cool if you're disciplined enough to keep everything in order and not be a hoarder. I don't know if that was meant to be a rhyme. We'll talk a little bit about what Anna is doing now in a tiny, I guess you would call it a tiny house. We would here. Anyways, I am sorry, Damiana Day says, I am a Kiwi. So she is not Australian. I apologize for that. And okay, yeah, right. Let's get back to it, and let's talk about AWOL 3 then, if we could, Anna. And thank you, for getting that slide up. Tell us about this map and where you went on AWOL. Well, actually, before we do that, tell us how that journey ended. AWOL #1 ended. Tell us, what happened after that ended, what you decided to do next, and then, bring us up to date to that third AWOL, if you would.
Okay, so the reason that we're not talking about AWOL 2 is because that was a long distance hike, not a trike trip. So after AWOL 1, I went back to Perth and the real world, and got another job, got another accounting job with the most hilarious boss I've ever had. And it was my plan to go and cycle around Australia. So I'd done this practice trip and thought, yeah, cool, I'm going to go cycle around Australia. Why not? And so while I'm working in the office, one day I'm heading off to work and my trike got run over and trashed by a little Chinese lady in a car. And so then I had to come up with plan B and decided to go and hike the Bibbulmun track in Western Australia instead.
And that is what we would consider to be a very long hike. Like I don't think it's as long as the Appalachian Trail, but it's maybe the Australian version of the Appalachian Trail. It's that sort of, long distance.
Well, yeah, it was only a third as long as the Appalachian Trail, and the Appalachian Trail was one that I was actually dreaming of doing. And so when I was on the Bibbulmun track, I was nearly finished. I was going, I've been in the woods for 11 weeks. I've walked nearly 600 miles. If I was on the Appalachian Trail, I would be not even a third of the way along it. Do I really want to hike the Appalachian Trail?
Give you a better perspective on that. But let me ask once again a similar question to what I asked before. Tell us a little about your preparation for this life, this hike of a lifetime. What was the preparation?
Hike of a lifetime. Well, for the ride around Australia, again, it was I thought about doing training, and I thought some more, and I thought some more, and I just never actually did it. So it was 12 weeks out from when I was supposed to leave, and I was still 130 kilos, and I'd still done no training, and I was still hopelessly unfit. And you might think that after riding to Albany, I was really fit. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, you must be really fit now." No, and because I rode really slowly, so there was no kind of cardio workout or anything like that. And if I had gained any fitness, I would have lost it really quickly once I got back to Perth and sat at a desk again. So it's 12 weeks, and I'm like, I really should do some training for this one. If this is not just 600 miles down the coast to Albany. So I found myself a personal trainer, and he's one of the characters. He's a character in the book called Christophe the Crucifier. He was a French guy, and he was absolutely ecstatic when I turned up with this goal, because it was something really unusual for him. And then when the plans changed, he was even more happy, because he was from Mont Blanc in France, and he used to lead trekking tours up the mountain. So he had a whole new world of ways of torturing me, and he was just absolutely thrilled. So that one I did actually do some training, not really
against your will, of course.
Not really willingly, but
right. Okay, so
yeah.
You did this amazing hike and proved again to yourself that you could, whatever you put your mind to, apparently you could accomplish. So after the end of the hike, bring us to what became AWOL #3. What happened, and how did you get to AWOL #3?
#3. So after the hike, I started thinking, okay, well, I'll go around Australia again, and the trike was working and all that. So, but the problem with that was, from Perth, the first thing you have to do is go across the Nullarbor. You can go north up towards Darwin, but I think you're usually going into headwinds. So it was basically go across the Nullarbor. And the Nullarbor is a bloody long way, and there's not much out there. There's roadhouses, and occasionally there's a town. It takes 2 days and nights on the train to get from Perth to Adelaide across the Nullarbor. And then, you have to carry all this water and stuff like that. And that was going to double my load. And I was already carrying 40 kilos I'm not sure what that is in pounds. A pound is 2.2.
2.2, yeah, that's right. So it's
A
lot
kilo,
of pounds.
kilo is 2.2 pounds. So I really didn't want to be carrying twice that. And so then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to catch the train from Perth to Adelaide and then up to Darwin, and then I'm going to ride back to Perth. And so that's what I did. So that one was from Darwin, heading down through Kakadu and the Northern Territory.
Put the slide back up. There you go. Thank you, guys.
And then across to Kununurra in Western Australia, and then down through the inside, I guess, what do you call it? The interior. And then through Broome and Port Hedland. I actually finished the trip in Port Hedland rather than riding all the way back to Perth.
Okay. All right.
Because I felt like I'd done enough.
Yeah, I think let's talk. I want to talk about the end of that when we get to the end of this this part of the interview. But let's go ahead and start and tell us about some of the highlights of AWOL number 3.
Well, everybody's heard of Kakadu National Park. It's where the famous Australian movie Crocodile Dundee was set. It's just out of Darwin. And I was riding along because of the track doesn't do so well on sand and dirt roads, and you didn't know a lot of dirt roads you could ride, but you didn't know how bad they were going to get. So I tended to stay off the dirt roads and I just stuck to the main roads. And so I'm riding along and going, this is Kakadu, yeah, this is the world famous, it was boring as hell. So I'm going, this is the world famous national park that everybody raves about. And no.
So I guess next slide. The next thing to say.
No. It was fantastic. But Kakadu keeps her secrets well hidden. They're off the main roads. You've got to get off the highways. And so fortunately I was stopped at a roadhouse one day having lunch. And this old guy comes wandering up to me and he says, I reckon you're the kind of person that doesn't like commercial tours. And I went, got it, correct. And he told me that he runs this, so I run this boat tour just up at a billabong, just up the road. But it's not like down at Coimbra. It's not all commercial. I think you'll really like it. And I said, all right, well, tell me the deal. How do I get there? And he goes, well, you just this road, just up the road from the roadhouse, and you just take that and it's 20 Ks to the billabong. And I'm like, 20 Ks on unsealed road? Yeah, nah. And he goes, no. It's in really good nick. It was just graded yesterday. And of course he was totally bullshitting. And I turned up on this road and it was corrugated as hell. And I think I dislodged every bone in my body on that 20 kilometers. And I finally rocked up in the field. He just had a caravan in a field and his boat that he did his trips on. And that was it. So it was definitely not commercialized. It was just camping in a field, and I rocked up and he comes striding across the field. He goes, you are one tough lady. And I said, you are obviously not a cyclist because the two things that car people don't understand is flat and smooth. And it was neither of those. But I had a great time.
It still worked out. Yeah,
he let me go on his boat tour 3 or 4 times for free, and we had a great chat and fed me some freshly caught barramundi, which I'd never had before, and yeah, we had a great time, apart from when we ran over.
Damiana Day says it sounds like some of the roads in New Zealand. She's commiserating with you there. Okay, should we go back to the slideshow then, and let's move along here.
This was
tree.
This is the north of Australia is quite famous for its boab trees. And this was the big boab, and that was in Western Australia. So it was a rest area, and it was so big that I could actually go inside the trunk. The trunk was hollow, and I could lie down. And I'm 6 foot tall, so that's big. That's quite a big space. And it was fantastic because it was a stinking hot day, and I went in there. It was nice and dark and cool, and I lay down, and the tree started singing to me. There was like this little high pitch. And then I eventually realized it was about 5,000 mosquitoes and got the hell out of there.
All right.
Kununurra was probably my favorite place in terms of scenery and the experiences that I had. So the top 2 photos are of the Ord River, which goes into Kununurra. And you can do, one of the backpackers hostels there has a 4-day self-guided paddling trip that you can do, and it was really cool. The only part I didn't like was because there's crocodiles there, you're not allowed to go by yourself, so I had to go with these 3 other backpackers, and they were all, I don't know, 12, 19, whatever, and yeah, they were kind of annoying. But the scenery was fantastic. When I first arrived in Kununurra, I was at a caravan park, and that little fellow in the bottom right-hand corner was wandering through the car park. He's about the same width as a car across the front. So he walked past a car and he was as wide as the car. And he came up to probably my knees. And there was a bunch of Nepalese Gurkhas staying at the caravan park. They were there to do some training, some tactical training or whatever. And he certainly made them a little bit uncomfortable, which I thought was hilarious.
All right.
And then that lady in the...
Yep, go ahead, back up one there. Thank you.
That lady in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm actually looking for this lady. This is the character in the book called Mary Lou. She's from Dallas, Texas. Her real name is Elizabeth Clark, and I managed to lose touch with her. So anyone happens to know Elizabeth Clark from Dallas, Texas, please let me know, because I'd love to speak to her
The quick
again.
story of you two were that you went around pretending like you were, was it sisters from the South kind of thing? Isn't it?
Cousins, yeah. Yeah, so I turned up after this 4-day trek and just dead. You know, I need to lie down right now and there had better not be any steps. I better not be in the top bunk. And I walked into this 4-bedroom dorm room at the Backpackers, and there were 2 bottom bunks and one was free. So I crashed straight on that, and across the way in the other one was this impossibly clean, delicate, dainty, classy looking woman, and she talked like this, and she's like, hi, I'm Mary Lou from Dallas, Texas, and I thought she was taking the piss because nobody actually talks like that. I thought that accent was way too exaggerated to be real. So, you know, I christened her Mary Lou, and I started talking like that too, and I decided we were going to be girlfriends and talk like that all week long, and so she said, well, you do something real well. You could pass for the real thing with that accent. So I thought I'd go and test it. So we spent the week talking like that and managed to fool a few people, which was really fun.
All right. Well, we'll put that to our southern viewers and see what the verdict is. Thumbs up or thumbs down, folks. Let us know in the comments if you would.
It's early. I'm not warmed up yet.
It sounded good to me, but I'm from Ohio. I'm an easy pick for getting that over me. Let's go on to the next slide if we could.
Okay, so this was just outside of Kununurra. This is another world famous attraction called the Bungle Bungles. And I managed to get up in a helicopter, which had no doors on it, and fly over the Bungle Bungles, and there's just some really amazing scenery out there. Really, really great place to go, yeah.
Okay, let's slide along to the next one here. Let's move along.
And then that was Broome. So Broome is a coastal town. It's a holiday town. It's that classic picture postcard sunset town. And my rest days are not like normal cycle tourist rest days. I mean, most cycle tourists, they will rock up in a town, they're having one rest day, and on that day they will get all their laundry done, they'll restock their panniers, they'll ride out to see all the sights around town, then they'll go down the pub and hang out there till midnight, and then the next day at sparrow's fart, crack of dawn, they'll cycle off, and you know, that's just terrible. So my idea of a rest day is rest.
That's Australian, by the way, folks.
Nothing.
For those of you not from Australia, Anna had to get up at, well, I don't know what time she got up, but she's on the show like at 6 o'clock in the morning. And right then and before is what is known in Australian as sparrow's fart. In case you didn't understand what she said.
Even the birds aren't awake.
Yeah, that's what that means, I guess. A quick question we had on that lizard in the previous slide. Do you know what that was called? What kind of lizard that was?
No.
Okay,
I know.
It's an unknown lizard. I believe the name is George, but it could have been something else. Let's move along to the next slide. and finish up here with the Japanese cemetery. Tell us about this.
Yeah, Japanese cemetery. Long before Australia even knew what multiculturalism was, it was all going on up in Darwin. So there was the Malaysians, there was the Aborigines, there was all sorts of stuff. There was Japanese pearl divers, and so there's this really cool cemetery in Broome that I spent probably a whole day in because it was just so cool to look at all the headstones.
Okay, so let's go back to Anna. Take a look at Anna again, please. As we finish up this trip, tell us you came to the last stop. You were going to continue on and go back home, right? But the original plan was, but you stopped. Tell us about that experience. What happened then?
I actually got bitten. I'm pretty sure I got infected by a parasite at one of the campgrounds. And I was just so tired, and I thought it's silly to continue. You know, sometimes you just got to say, I've got to stop. And I'd pretty much seen everything between Port Hedland and Perth, so there was no great loss there. And it just felt like it was done. I felt like whatever I'd gone out there to do on this trip, I'd done it. And there was all the wonderful that I was hoping to meet had found me, and there wasn't really anything else waiting for me. So I just packed it up and came back to Perth.
You had all the experiences you were looking for at that point anyway. So, all right, let's talk about a couple of the things about your AWOLs in general now, and get your ideas on this. So you talk about road angels. Tell us about a couple of the road angels, and tell me about your favorite road angel. Tell us what they are, and then who are your favorites.
Okay, so road angels are a travel phenomenon that I discovered on my first AWOL, and they're basically the people that just pop up out of nowhere with the very thing that you need at that time. So sometimes it's a cold can of Coke on a hot day. So I had water in my water bottle. I hate drinking hot water, and you know when it gets so hot that you just drink it and you want to puke. So somebody turns up. Would you like a cold drink, love? Yes. Hell yes, I'll have your baby for a cold drink. Thank you. Sometimes it's just somebody just finds out what you're doing and they say, that's so cool. And this is on a day when you feel like crap and you're going, what the hell am I doing out here? I just want to go home. And so that gives you the strength to keep going. Sometimes it's helped with the bigger problems. So one time on my third AWOL, I think it was a new tire. I think I'd actually blown a tire. And I was at least 100 miles out of Kununurra heading south, and there was no way in hell I was going to ride back there. And so I found somebody at a roadhouse who was going there, and they agreed to take my tire and take it to the bike shop and get a new tire and send that tire back with somebody else that was coming back that way. So that was really cool. And then probably my favorite ones would have been May and Barry. They're the ones I met before on my first AWOL, before I even cycled out of the city. So I was at a holiday caravan park on the outskirts of Perth, and I was supposed to be there one night before I headed off into the wild blue yonder. And I was there for 4 days, and I was dithering about actually hitting the road and doing this. It was just, there was something wrong with my trike. It felt like I was riding with the brakes on, and it was like, I just want to go home and sit on the sofa. And then after 4 days, I finally decided that I was going to do this, because what else are you going to do? And you come this far, you might as well keep going. And as soon as I decided, I ransacked my panniers. I pulled out about a few kilos of stuff that I wasn't going to need, and I was going to take it home on the bus and leave it at my place and then come back and then cycle off. And while I was waiting at the bus stop outside the caravan park, I met this retired couple, May and Barry, and they were travelling around Australia in a caravan, and all they had was the pension. And they'd been doing this for 9 years. And I went, oh, cool, nomads. So I said, you're coming to dinner at my place. So we just had this fantastic evening, and we were swapping stories and tips and all this sort of stuff and philosophy. And it was kind of like the universe was saying, you're on the right road. You've made the right decision. Just keep going. So it was kind of a little message.
Okay. A couple of quick things from our chat. First of all, Partalk81 says, that lizard was a goanna. It's on Wikipedia. So There's the
I
hive
figured
mind.
somebody would know.
The hive mind at work, I guess. Thanks a lot for that. And
So you
Damiana
don't need
Day,
to know everything, you just need to know how to find out.
you just need to know how to ask, I think. Damiana
That's
Day
right.
says, Australia, land of things that want to bite you. Now, I think that may be true, and you talked about that a bit in your book. That leads me to my next question, which has to do with fear. Because if your book is about anything at all, it's about overcoming fear and just not getting off the ball and not getting off the start to do something. So I want to know what you feared most about doing these AWOLs once you decided to do it. What did you fear most about being on the road? And then when it was all over, what ended up really scaring you? What did you see that really scared you the most?
So what I was scared of before I left wasn't any of the stuff that the armchair experts kept trying to scare me with, like you're going to get run over by a road train, you're going to get chopped up by an axe murderer, you're going to get eaten by wild pigs or crocodiles and so on. Because I had some friends who had done this, they'd ridden their trikes around Australia, and you should really only get advice from people who have done what you want to do, because the armchair experts don't know shit. So I wasn't too fussed about that stuff. What I was most scared of was being carted back to Perth in an ambulance before I even got to the first town, because I just, had a heart attack or torn a hamstring or something like that. Because 285-pound, 30-something couch potatoes just aren't supposed to be cycling thousands of kilometres. And then I was scared of, beyond that, I was scared of the embarrassment of failing and looking like an idiot in front of everybody. But then I eventually realised that the only way to fail is not to try at all. So what actually did scare me during the tours, most of that was probably on AWOL 2, which was the long distance hike. People kept telling me, you're going to get chopped up by an axe murderer. And the second night that I'm on this track, the first night I turned up at the hut, and there was two families there, and one of the wives at one point said, so if you were out here by yourself, would you be scared? And I went, no. And then, of course, the next night, the next hut was in this really eerie clearing that was just all misty and spooky. It was the perfect set for a horror movie in the woods kind of movie. And so I turned, and there was nobody there. So I was there all by myself, and dark's coming, and it's just getting creepier and creepier and creepier. And I've got my little headlamp on and shone it out into the dark, and there are trail markers, reflective trail markers on the trees at about my eye height. So it picked up one of those, and then I saw a pair of eyes walk in front of that. And I thought, oh great, somebody's coming to the hut. I'm don't have to be scared anymore, because all the axe murderers know that when there's more than one of you in the hut, they can't come and kill you. And so I was like, okay, it's not far. They'll be here in about 10 seconds. And 10 seconds went past, and nobody turned up, and 20 seconds and a minute. And so I'm like this, and just nobody turned up. And I know I saw eyes, and I know they were human eyes. So that really scared the crap out of me. And for the next couple of hours, I'm going, and I'm listening to all these night noises, which were probably just kangaroos and stuff feeding in the bushes. But they were scaring the crap out of me. I was so scared.
And true to your nature, though, you continued on, right? What else can you do at that point, right?
Well, I had to force myself to give that up and go to sleep, because I could literally feel myself getting so scared that I was going to scare myself into a heart attack or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bed, I'm going to sleep. And I finally fell asleep, and I'm in this dead sleep, and all of a sudden the axe murderer turns up in the hut and it scares me out of a dead sleep. And it turned out it was just a young guy and his sister that were on a night walk, so they were probably the eyes that I saw.
So your imagination sometimes is... All right, Anna, let's kind of wrap it up here. I want to, if you can, briefly tell us, what do you expect your readers to get out of this book? What do you want them to take away after reading your book?
Okay, so the book's mostly a whole bunch of funny stories, but it does have two serious messages. And the first one is, don't wait until the time is right to follow your dreams. I mean, if I had waited till I was slim and fit to go AWOL, I'd still be waiting. It's 15 years later. because I still can't walk up a flight of stairs without puffing. And I actually only started losing weight about 6 months ago, and I wasn't even trying to. It was just when I fully committed to living my dreams and, you know, marketing this book and doing the public speaking and all this sort of stuff, which is kind of interesting. And the other message is, don't live other people's dreams for your life. So me being an accountant was basically my parents' dream for my life. So they were immigrants. They came out in the 60s. They were peasant farmers. They didn't even have an indoor toilet on where they lived. So their dream was the typical migrant's dream of that time. They want a big house, they want a car or two, they want an indoor toilet, and they wanted kids who went to university and had a profession rather than doing manual labor. So now there's nothing wrong with that dream, it just wasn't my dream. And I find that a lot of people are living the life that other people want them to live rather than the life that they want to live, and they're not very happy.
That's wonderful, and I think people will get that and so much more out of your book. I encourage all of you watching who have not yet had the opportunity to pick up a copy of Fat Chick Goes AWOL. Please do so, and we're gonna give you the links, everything you need to get the electronic version, or if you're in Australia, the paperback version to do that. But Anna is a wonderful writer, fascinating stories that she tells, and so humorously told, as you can tell by our engaging conversation today. Most of it hers is the engaging part, but okay, let's Anna, let me get one quick question. We're going to go on and finish up here. Log notching, that's Ed Miller, wants to know, what was the purpose of the storage tube that was tie strapped underneath the trike? Do you know what he's talking about?
Oh, the PVC pipe. Yeah, it's cable tied to the boom. That was to put the flags into.
Oh, that held your flags if you didn't. Okay. And did it scrape on the ground ever? That's what he wants to know.
No.
Okay.
I think I put that on after I was touring, so I don't actually know how that would go touring.
Okay. Anna, let's talk about the book. As I started telling people and encouraging them to read it, I understand that the book has garnered some awards for you. Can you tell us about the awards that you've won? Yeah, that was fun. That was the first one was a bronze medal for best first book non-fiction. That was the Independent Publisher Awards in the US. And the second one was the outright winner of the humor category in BookFest America's International Book Awards. So when I tell you it's funny, you don't have to believe me. It's official now. It's officially funny as. And there you have it, folks. Don't take it from us. Take it from the awards awarders. Okay. Now. Oh, look, there's an award. I've got a medal. Yeah, look at my medal. It's huge. Yeah, I got a message from Jeff Cole today, making sure, asking me to make sure that you attributed something of his role in this. What did Jeff Cole do for you? Hi, Jeff. Yes, he did. This particular awards, they had an awards ceremony in New York in June. And I can't even afford to fly to the next city, let alone to New York. And I did a crowdfunding campaign and didn't really think that it was going to do anything, but my Facebook followers just turned out to be incredible. They raised in something like 48 hours, they raised a couple of $1,000s for the flights and insurance and all that sort of stuff. So I actually got to go to New York. It was all organized in about 8 hours on the Monday, and the awards ceremony was on the Tuesday. And so then I managed to stay in New York for a week, staying at the Backpackers. And because it was all done in a hurry, and I'm not much of an accommodation booker, which is fine when you're just riding in the outback of Australia and you've got a tent and there's roadside rest areas and you can camp anywhere if all the accommodation's full. Doesn't work so well in New York City in June. So there was a Friday and a Saturday night where all the backpackers were full, and I was trying desperately to find accommodation. And Airbnb was all full until November. All the hotels were full. You know, I couldn't afford the hotels anyway, but I happened to land on somebody's floor, and this was Jeff Cole, and
I didn't find him through a triking group or anything like that. I found him because he was running the stand-up comedy show, the free stand-up comedy show that was held weekly at the backpacker hostel that I was staying at, and it just happened to be on the floor that I was on, right outside my dorm room. And so I went to check it out, and you know how comedians all start their shows off with who's in the room, where are you from, what do you do, all that sort of stuff. So I said, I'm from Australia, and I guess I've just published this book, and I'm here to get this award for it, so I guess I'm a writer. He goes, oh, what's it about? And I said, nobody ever knows what a recumbent trike is. So I say it's those funny-looking laid-back three-wheeled bikes. So I said, it's about that. And he goes, oh, you mean a recumbent trike? And he lifts up his boot, and he's got the recessed cleats in the bottom of the boot. And he says, I've got a two-wheeled recumbent in the office there. And after the show, you and me are going to talk for about 10 hours. so when I got talking to him, I said, oh, I don't suppose you... It turns out that there were 8 recumbent cyclists in the whole of New York City. And
Jeff happens to own 3 recumbents himself, I understand. So
he has more recumbents than all of them.
Let's finish up with the awards. I want you to tell me about the exciting award ceremony that you attended after all this. You finally got to New York. Tell me about the award ceremony. How was it, Anna?
I have no idea, Gary, because I missed it by 5 minutes.
Tell us what happened.
Well, it was fine until LA, and then we had massive delays. The generator on the plane wasn't working, so we were delayed there. We were delayed at New York with the baggage. One of my seatmates had decided to drink alcohol for her meals rather than eat, so she was just completely out of control, and I'm trying to wrangle her and get my luggage, and then I finally get on a shuttle bus, and it took us 2 hours just to get out of the airport. I couldn't believe it. I think I had about 2 hours leeway, but then I had another 3 hours because the ceremony was 3 hours long. Shuttle bus, my stop was the last stop, and all this sort of stuff. And one of my Facebook followers had actually paid for my first night's accommodation in a hotel in New York. She'd found a hotel right next to the venue where the awards ceremony was. I turned up there. They wouldn't let me in because they wanted my credit card. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't get hold of her to call them because they wouldn't let me use their Wi-Fi until I was registered as a guest. And then I just completely lost it. I'm bawling my eyes out. My nose started bleeding. I'm schlepping back and forth between the hotel and the Starbucks across the street, trying to get her to talk to them. And it was just, and I was like, this is just ridiculous. I give up. And I thought, I'm just going to go next door and see the awards people and see if anybody can help me there. And I turned up, blood pouring down my face and tears pouring down my face. And the bouncer says, oh, they just packed up and left 5 minutes ago.
Boom. And so no award ceremony after all that.
Yeah, and they took my award back to Chicago to the office with them.
With your bloody nose and tears. It
got a lot better after that.
In a very long time, Anna. So let's not leave it on that. Let's wrap it up here. I want to know about if there's going to be another AWOL. Where do you go from here? What are you going to get another trike? Is there going to be another AWOL? Where does Anna Mitchell go from here?
I think there's going to be more AWOLs. I mean, we're not done yet. Those 3 trips were actually practice trips because my goal was to cycle around the world. I kind of got waylaid in Melbourne for a few years, and I eventually figured out that there were things that there was a reason for that, and there were other things that I needed to explore, and I've been doing that. And I'm not quite done yet, so I've got a few more things to do, but then we'll be hitting the road again. I'm pretty sure of that. So first, I just want to do some things like build myself a tiny house on wheels so that I have somewhere to come back to after my AWOLs, because it's much easier to just hitch it up to a trailer and move the house than it is to live in a normal house and pack everything up and put it in storage or sell it off and then start all over again when you come back.
Okay, let me, I don't have a whole lot of time, but I do not want to leave you without you telling us what you are actually up to doing right now and having to do with the rubbish economy. Tell us, give me like 30 seconds and tell me what you're doing about that tiny house and where you are now and what you're using.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to build the tiny house, and I still can't afford to do that. So I've been building things that were free. So I ran out of money, couldn't go traveling. It dragged out for a few years. I was bored, stupid. I had to do something, and I had to do something that didn't cost any money. So I discovered dumpster diving and hard rubbish picking, and our local spring water factory that throws out all these pallets. So I built all these buildings out of pallets. The rubbish lounge is the big one, and that's kind of like a cubby house for grown-ups, and it's so cool that people now want to pay me to come and stay there and look at my yard full of rubbish. So that's that'll be going on Airbnb shortly, and that's really cool because I'll get to meet all these travelers and kind of have adventures in the day without even leaving my backyard.
Sounds like a lot of fun, Anna. Okay, Anna, you've just been a delight to talk to and wonderful to work with over the last month or so. Got a chance to know you a little bit, even at these great distances. I hope we made a friendship. I really enjoyed talking to you and having you on the show. I want people to know how they can find out more, find your book and your Facebook page and such. Can we put up the, Irv, can you get up that last shot with the information from, yep, that's it right there, and you can hit it, Lars, thank you. Tell us about where our viewers can find out more, Anna.
Okay, so there's a website where you can download free sample chapters of the book, and then if you like that, you can buy the book. That's www.fatchickgoesawol.com. There's a Facebook page where you can find out about my current adventures, which are not travel related, but now because of the book, I'm starting to have work gigs. Like I've been invited to go to speak at travelers gatherings and BentCon next year. And
that's Recumbent Cycle-Con for non-Australians. He calls it BentCon, yes.
Us Australians are lazy. We don't like having to say the whole word or somebody's whole name, so we like to abbreviate stuff. So I'm calling it BentCon because I think that's
you are allowed. Okay.
And then there's an email, mitchellus1@gmail.com. If you've read the book and you want to tell me what you loved about it, send me an email. If it's inspired you to follow your own dreams, I definitely want to know about that. If you want me to come talk at your club meeting or your travelers gathering or your podcast or whatever, let me know. I'm doing a book/speaking tour of Western Australia in October, and then some of the east coast of Australia in November. And then next year I'll be hitting the US. So I'm looking for some groups to have some fun with.
That sounds great, Anna. I wanted to thank you so much for being with us. I want everyone else to know that BentCon, or as we call it, Recumbent Cycle-Con, we'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the show here. Laidback Bike Report will be there doing our usual interviews and creating the fine coverage that we try to put together for you guys on each of these shows. We'll have a booth, and we're going to have some hard copy. Well, they're paperback copies of Anna's book, and we'll have those available for you if you happen to be there. Or, you know, go to the website as she's talked about, or the Facebook page, etc., and you can purchase the e-book there. So we hope you do that. It's a treasure as far as I'm concerned. So Anna, Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us today. You are welcome to stick around through the rest of the show as we do it. Or if you got to go back to bed because you got up at Sparrow's Fart, please do that as well. Thank you, Anna Mitchell.
Thanks so much, Gary.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, folks, let's move along here. Bryan is going to give us that news report that I promised. Bryan, are you there, buddy?
I am here.
And I know you don't have a whole lot of time before you got to go.
No,
another gig.
I'm good. Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
All right, so let's go ahead and tell us what's in the news, Bryan.
There's a lot. I know all summer I had been promising you all that there would be news in the fall when the new stuff came out. Hey, it all came out, so it's good. First of all, want to touch, we talked about earlier we were talking about our sponsor, Schlitter Bikes. A lot of hurricane stuff. I've been getting a lot of questions about that. I've talked to pretty much everybody, and everybody's pretty much okay. TerraTrike's coming back online. Pachetta's fine. Schlitter Bikes. I just talked to Jackie actually yesterday on the phone. They got their power back and stuff, so everybody's okay. So I know we were all kind of worried about that for a while. We had a lot of recumbent industries were in the path of the last couple hurricanes we had. So,
Bryan, don't mean to interrupt you just for a second. Irv, can you go ahead and get the first slides up there for? I don't see the slides up yet for Bryan. If you would, go ahead, Bryan.
Okay. Do you want me to wait for the slides?
Yeah, if you're going to the slides next,
I can pontificate for a while if you want. That's my speciality.
Go ahead. Give us what you got for 30 seconds here.
All right, I see some slides. Oh, there we go.
And,
we got slides.
There we go. And there we go. Cool. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
The first one I want to talk about, Eurobike was this past week, so a lot of new stuff came out then. One of them was the Hase Trigo that you see there, or Trigo. Hase is very fond of making names that people will argue about how to pronounce forever and ever and ever. But I heard Trigo, so that's what I'm going with. It's a new Delta trike. They're trying to make their stuff a little more mainstream. It's a very modular design. It's very easy to adjust. 24-speed derailleur drivetrain, and previously they didn't have super conventional drivetrains, so that'll be nice for people. All aluminum, all new seat, lower bottom bracket than the Ket Wiesel was, and starts at $25.50, which is a pretty good price for that. Options include Shimano steps, e-assist system, and this really cool thing they call a roller rack. It's pretty awesome. I actually just discovered that this morning. I didn't click far enough to get that from the press release, but it's like a fully covered rolling thing that you can go in and get all your groceries and stuff and then just pick it up and snap it on the back of the trike. It's pretty awesome. So very eager to see that in person at Cycle-Con. That's when its a U.S. official debut is. Speaking of U.S. official things, HP Velotechnik has just released a new Gecko Concept 3.2. They call it for the U.S. market specifically. So it starts at $1,890, which is way cheaper than anything HP has ever made before was. It comes in a Gecko FX20 and FX26 folding versions. But the version that I'm really excited about, the cheaper one, is the new Gecko 26. It doesn't fold and has a slightly higher seat height than the previous one did. And that's the one that's really aimed more at the US market. And I think that's going to be very exciting. It's got all the usual HP options and stuff that are too vast to list. HP Velotechnik does a very good job with accessories and all that stuff. And the last one I want to talk about, the TerraTrike Gran Turismo. I actually got one of these. I published the review on the day that they released it. They sent me one a week early. Very cool new trike for them. Very big departure for them. I think it's much more of a kind of sculpted sort of frame look. It's got a triangulated rear end, completely new geometry, handles really well. I think definitely the best handling TerraTrike I've ever ridden. It's got a Y-frame design, which means the cruciform has been in a little bit, so it's easy to get in and out of like their last few have been. Much stiffer rear end than previously. And I think some of it might be a bit controversial, but the I Love, it has a 24-inch rear drive wheel. I think that's the perfect gearing for a trike. I've bothered several trike manufacturers about making something with a 24. It's a little more gearing than a 20, but a little less than a 26. I think it works out very, very well. And they put that on it, which I'm very happy to see a full-on production trike with a 24. It comes in 16 or 20-speed options. Starts at $19.99 for the 16 or $23.99 for the 20, which is a pretty good deal. And I think that's going to do very well for TerraTrike. I think they're trying to move a bit more into that enthusiast sort of market. So I'm happy to see that coming out of TerraTrike. And it looks pretty too. So I think that's about all I have. All the other new stuff I had, I'm sure Denny is going to cover in his race report. So stay tuned for that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brian. And
you're
like
very,
I said,
very welcome.
I know you got to go. And we'll, I think you mentioned we're going to probably see all three of those trikes. And I think they're all going to be available for test rides at the Cycle-Con.
Yeah. All three of those, they definitely have already confirmed to me are. And we'll be I'll be in the booth right next to you. That's
my understanding. So, you know, I tried to get that changed. Talked to Chuck about that. He said, no, you're going to be next.
No, we got it. So if you want to get news and stuff and buy some stuff, we're all right. We're all right next to each other.
Right. And we're gonna talk a little bit about more specifics of Cycle-Con right at the end of the show and tell everybody about that again. But yeah, it'll be great to have you next door again. We'll have some fun this year, I'm sure. Again,
avoiding eye contact for 3 days.
That's what you do, and that's what we do best. Let me look over here for that. Okay, so thanks, Bryan. Let's move along to Denny. Are you unmuted and ready to roll?
Yes, I am. Do you have me up there?
All right, Denny, and the Laidback Sports Desk and right now you're going to get the sports report. Take it, Denny.
Okay, first off is the Mid-Atlantic 1224 and UMC Championship 100-mile race, August 24th in Washington, North Carolina. This well-attended and nicely run event features a 25.6-mile loop course in a lovely tidal region of the North Carolina coast. The 100-mile race was dominated by recumbents this year. The first 3 overall finishers were Bents, ridden by Jim Parker, Alex Struhal, and Larry Osland with a time of 4 hours and 9 minutes. That was the first place. They all came in at the same time with just 2 seconds apart. Really just had a very, very good run. The first 3 places were within 4 seconds of each other, finishing 4 minutes ahead of the first standard bike. Jim and Larry had teamed up earlier this year for a 4-person mixed recumbent team contesting Race Across America, and they did very, very well. Maria Parker also won her age group and was the first female across the line, besting the next best finisher on a standard bike by an amazing 44 minutes. Clearly, recumbent bikes had the edge in this race. On the 12-hour race, Dan Rocco continued to show his strength with a tie for second place with a 227.7-mile effort over the 12-hour course. No top recumbent finishers in the 24-hour race this year, but Bruce Herman and Dave Towns finished with over 200 miles. Bruce managed 278.3 miles on a trike, and Dave 202.4 miles. Conditions this year was particularly hot and humid, with a daytime heat index of over 110 degrees. A shout out to Dan Fallon for tackling the rugged and difficult race around Ireland. He had to abandon the race early on, but kudos to even taking on the challenge. This race this year was extremely difficult. The course was 1,346 miles long with over 160,000 feet of climbing. I couldn't believe that, but apparently that was it. More than half of the solo field did not finish the 132-hour time allotment, and one of the toughest bike races in the world right now. And that's in Ireland. They've had it for quite a few years, and not too many recumbents have ever tried it. This week was the Human-Powered Vehicle Speed Challenge in Battle Mountain, Nevada. So far, conditions have been less than ideal. There were 70-plus mile per hour runs, but nothing of note or even close to last year's world record of 89 miles per hour. Coming up next week is in Glen Rose, Texas, is the Texas Time Trials, a timed 500-mile race and a 24, 12, and 6-hour race of all that you can ride in allotted time events. One entry in this year's race is Red Pearl Racing. The recumbent team of Sandy Earl and Bill Spaeth that I crewed for earlier this year are going for what they call the Texas Two-Step. They will attempt as a 2-person team to ride the 500-mile event that starts on Thursday evening and the 24-hour event that starts Friday afternoon, about 5 in the afternoon, 23 hours later. It's never been done, and we'll have a report on the next Laidback Bike Report in October. Finally, some really good news out of Ohio. Ohio needs some good news, I think. The popular Calvin's Challenge 6 and 12-hour race will return to Springfield, Ohio in early May. Larry and Christine Graham have owned the race for 9 years, but decided to step away from it and sought a new owner after last year's race. This year they found one. She is Maria Del P. Vasquez, there, you have to get that right, an ultra cyclist, fitness coach, and motivational speaker. Boy, I'm having a little trouble with that. From the Cleveland area, she should bring a fresh approach to a really great event. Calvin's Challenge in 2018 will be Saturday, May 5th in Springfield, Ohio. If you have an event you've competed in and would like to get a mention on the Laidback Bike Report Sports Desk, please drop us a line or give us a shout on the Facebook site. We'll try to get you some recognition. That's it for this month. So until next time, stay on the bike and keep moving forward. Back to you, Gary.
All right. We're going to keep it moving forward as fast as we can. Thank you, Denny, for the sports report. And now let's head to California. Why not? Dana, I think, is there and has readied a report on something about tires, I believe. What do you got, Dana?
Tires.
Where the rubber meets the road is what I titled it. Take it, whatever you got.
These things. So I'm working from the comfort of my own home today. And gosh, so let's get started. I want to talk a little bit about tire sizing. In fact, I'm going to talk a little bit about tire sizing. This seems to be a really confusing issue for people. Just so you understand, there are so many different sizes of tires, it can be very, very confusing. So what I really want everybody to encourage everybody to do is look at this tire size. You see right here, I think it's backwards, but
No.
you can see there's two tire sizes on there. One says 25-622. The other one says 700 by 25C. That 700 by 25C, ignore that. Anything that looks like a normal number, for example, 28-inch or 700C, ignore that. When it says 20-inch tires on it, ignore that. You really want to be looking, excuse me, I'm grabbing another example, the metric size. You know, I can count 3 different 20-inch tire sizes. There are 4 different 26-inch tire sizes. So if you see a tire that says 26-inch, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the 26-inch that you're looking for. So you'll see on here, again, I'm sorry, it's backwards. Let me see if I can find it. For example, this tire right here says 2-inch by 2, I'm sorry, 20-inch by 2. It also says 50-406 on there. The 50-406 is what you want to be looking at. That's what you want to make sure you're matching up whenever you're replacing a tire. In this case, the 50 refers to the width. This is a 2-inch tire. And the 20 is that it's one of the 20-inch tire sizes. Okay? When you are then looking to purchase tubes, you want to look at the metric size. This is, so you could look here at the 700 by 23 to 25 millimeter, or you could look at the 27 by 1 1/8. Don't look at the 27 by 1 1/8 or 700C tire size. You can see this one actually does not give you a metric size. Although I guess if you look on the top, it does. Right, it says 622 and 630 instead of the 27-inch. Again, it can get really confusing. For example, this tube that I grabbed out of our shop just says 24 by 1 inch. Now, as I said before, there are 3 sizes in 24-inch. If you just grab a tube that says 24-inch on it, you have a 1/3 chance of getting it right. So make sure that you're looking at the right sizes. Any questions so far?
You know, I have one, Dana, and it has a little bit to do with what I've seen about that that new trike from TerraTrike and some of the chatter I've seen about that. So the 24-inch wheel in the back, and now I see all these people complaining like you can't get 24-inch tires, you can't get 24-inch tubes. Can you tell us about your experience about that?
Sure. I think there's 2 ways to look at that. As a dealer, it drives me crazy when manufacturers start using different wheel sizes, because it just means I have to start stocking a different tire size and different tube size. But with that said, there are plenty of tires available at 24-inch size. Like I said, there's 3 different 24-inch sizes. There's the 507, the 520, and the 540. I believe TerraTrike is using the 507. There's any number of options. If you go look on the Schwalbe website, most of their common tires are available in that size.
Okay, good enough. So, okay, any other questions? Anybody, any panelists have questions?
Okay, let me just throw one more thing in. Sure. Another common question that I get, and this will just take a second, is the difference between a folding tire and a wire bead tire. They're not the same. The folding beaded tire, well, obviously, is going to be a whole lot easier if you are the crazy chick on a trike traveling to long lost places and you need to carry a tire with you. This is much easier to carry when it folds up. The folding tire is going to be a little bit lighter. They're not running a steel bead in here. It also makes it a little bit easier to get it on the rim when you're installing the tire. So just some subtle differences, but there are differences.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of jumped in here because I replaced my rear tire with a 24 when I went with a motor assist. And when I did that, I ordered Schwalbe tires for it and ordered the tubes. And I went with those gooey tubes. What's your thoughts on that? You know, what the goo inside? I don't know what you call it.
I like it. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. It works.
Yeah.
I actually don't like it because if you have any kind of a puncture that's beyond just a pinhole puncture. Let's say you cut with a glass, you end up with a big green mess.
Yeah.
I would prefer customers to actually buy the tires that are going to be more puncture resistant. They're going to do a better job. And again, you just don't end up with the green mess. The same thing I can say about tubeless tires. I've tried running tubeless. You've got to run a sealant in there. And if you ever have a big enough cut that sealant doesn't actually fix the cut in the tire, and you need to throw a tube in there, you're going to have a really, really hard time because you got all that mess in there, all that muck.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's my opinion.
Yep.
But with that said, the slime absolutely works. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They use it in cars. I mean, all kinds of applications with pneumatic tires, and it definitely works. But I've been on the other end when I got to clean up the mess too.
Well, I turned just about 2,000 miles now, and I've never had a flat tire, but I changed my tires at 15,000 or 1,500, 15,000, yeah, 1,500, and
wow.
It was about.
Are you using the goop in there or not using the gooper?
Yeah, I'm using the goop in.
Okay.
I've never had a flat, so.
Well, what kind of tires?
I got Schwabies.
Which ones?
I don't know. They're Schwabies.
The round ones.
The round ones.
Well, so I mean that's a good point too, and that's a marketing thing. You know, Schwalbe Tires makes tires from $7, $8, all the way up to $70 or $80, and there are a lot of differences. TerraTrike has started putting Schwalbe tires on their trikes, which is wonderful. They're not putting the top end tires on, but Schwalbe makes a good tire.
Yeah.
1,500 miles. I think you could probably get a lot more miles out of your tire if it's any kind of.
These were the original tires that I got 1,500 out of. So when I put Schwabies on, I'm expecting I'm going to get more out of these. They're a heavier duty tire, and then going with the tubes with the gook in it. I think I'm going to probably go a lot further. You know?
Good. Yeah, I think you will too.
I've got one more question, and Irv, if you can put that slide up for that last slide up, and I'm going to let's see, from Thomas Quinn from chat, Dana, what kind of mileage should the Marathon Plus tire get?
Oh, I've seen people get 7,000 miles out of a Marathon Plus.
Oh.
Yeah, they last longer than chains.
Wow. Yeah. So,
I mean, that is the if you're on an expedition and you really don't want to be worried about anything, you get the Marathon Pluses. They last forever. They're bulletproof. With that said, you can still get a flat tire on them through the sidewall. Protection only wraps. I mean, this is not a Marathon Plus. This is a Big Apple, but it only wraps down to just a little bit above the reflective sidewall. So if you get something that goes in the side like a nail, it's going to puncture it just like any other tire.
And before we leave you, Dana, actually, Anna, go ahead and unmute yourself. You can ask your question. Anna, our guest, has a question for you regarding her tires, which reflects what's been going on with her riding. Anna, go ahead.
What he's trying to say is that I haven't. Hi, Trey. What he's trying to say is that I haven't ridden my trike in quite a few years, and I have some spare tubes tubes that are still in the box. And I'm just wondering how long these things will keep for. In
the box indefinitely. Yeah, it's
okay.
UV,
so the rubber doesn't dry out or anything.
No, it shouldn't. I mean, if you pull it out and it's falling apart, then obviously something happened. Probably mice. But
quite possible on a farm.
No, if they're in the box, they're protected from UV degradation. They should be just fine. Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not like batteries where you can only store them for so many years.
No. I've got tubes in my garage that have been there for 10 years. I have no hesitancy using them at all.
Fantastic. And tires are the same? Because they're not really.
Well, so the thing is that tire's not going to be stored in a box, so you got to make sure it's indoors where it's not getting exposed to the UV.
And just to make sure everyone understands, Dana actually has an Italian sub in his garage from 10 years ago as well that he's not yet eaten, and I'm sure it's perfectly fine as well. All right, I think we're going to end it there. Dana, thank you so much. That was interesting, and I think those are some questions a lot of us have about.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
Okay, yeah. Dana's going to be at BentCon as well, so that's kind of a surprise. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
BentCon. Is that the one on like?
Oh, you might not have seen. Well, Anna calls it BentCon. That's why.
BentCon. Okay.
Yeah,
I've infected you.
Yeah, I'm infected now with BentCon, so you know that means I probably won't be allowed back next year. So thank you very much.
I better stop calling it that. They won't let me come.
Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks, Dana. Let's Lars, if you want to hit that slide for me, please. And we want to finish up here by thanking again our great sponsor, Schlitter Bikes. I want you to know you can learn more about their shop and bikes at schlitterbike.com. Okay, we're going to head to the closing now. Let's go ahead to the next. Well, let's not quite go that far. Can you back up one, please, Irv? Let's see if back up one.
That's it.
Oh, okay, that's all right. No big deal. Come on to me then, if you can, Lars. I'm going to tell you about the description section of the YouTube video. It's important because all of these things that we've been talking about today, and we talk about in every show, all the websites, all the email addresses, we want you to be able to access those easily and not have to listen to the whole show and write them down, of course, including Anna Mitchell's book and everything. So in the description section of the YouTube video, we will have a listing of all of these things we've talked about and all the websites and emails so that you can just go in there and look and see. We also put a clickable table of contents. As you guys know, I talk about it all the time. A show runs a little bit long. There's a lot of material in it. May not be able to watch it all in one sitting. That's fine. Just you'll see each particular subject with a little link, and you can just watch it in little bite-sized pieces if you like. We'll have all the links and the clickable table of contents in the description section right below where you watch this video. And now let's go to that picture, if we can, the slide. The next Laidback Bike Report, folks. Next month is going to be so busy for us. We have a regular show, first of all. And it is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on October 15th, back to the usual 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to have the renowned world trike explorer and blogger, Sylvia Halpern. She's going to join us from Mexico, where she will be staying at the time. And she's going to tell us a little bit about the what, where, and why of all of her amazing journeys on that trike of hers. She's really an interesting person to talk to. I think you'll enjoy it. So please join us next month, October 15th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time for Sylvia Halpern. All right, next, let's use the real name, Recumbent Cycle-Con. That's coming up October 6th through the 8th at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center. So the 6th is a Friday. It's actually the industry day. And so it'll be dealers and industry people only. On the 7th and 8th, the Saturday and Sunday, it will be open to the public. This is a fantastic show. We had it the last 2 years in Cincinnati, Ohio. Bentrider is going to have a booth, as we talked about. Laidback Bike Report is going to have a booth. We're going to be there to talk to you guys, find out what you're thinking about our show and what you might suggest. We're going to have giveaways. In fact, I almost forgot, we're going to give away one of Anna's books as one of our raffles. So we hope that you'll take the time, if you're anywhere near the area, to attend the Recumbent Cycle-Con. Again, we'll have the links in the description of the YouTube video so you'll know about the website and how to sign up and where to go. We want to thank our sponsors that make it possible for us to attend the Cycle-Con this year. Our main sponsor, as it was for Spetsy, is Trident Trikes. Tom Floor has been wonderful to us and has always helped us out. I've been a great supporter of this show. So thank you, Tom and Trident Trikes. And then we've picked up quite a few other patrons that will help support us as well. TerraCycle, Trailside Bike, Recumbent PDX, Jersey Bents, Greenspeed, Hostile Shop, Cruise Bike, Bent Up Cycles, thank you, Dana, and HP Velotechnik are those that have helped us out for this particular show. So thank you to all those sponsors. Please, folks, patronize these guys and use their products. We really appreciate the support they give us, and we hope you'll support them as well. At the show, we're going to have Ed Miller. Ed was on the chat here today. He's going to bring us a couple of very unique trikes to show us. These are both antiques and unique trikes. He's going to bring a 2003 hand-built Luna trike that was built by Eric Whiting. And he's also going to, the next slide if you would, he's going to show us an all-original 1985 Huffy Slingshot Child's rear steer recumbent trike, as you can see there. A couple of really interesting things you'll want to lay your eyes on when you get there. There's another interesting story of Recumbent Cycle-Con. We met a young man from St. Louis. His name is Julian Hadley, and Julian has decided to help us out, join our crew at Cycle-Con this year. And he's going to get there by riding that Trident trike that you see that he has modified and decked out and built up for a trek from St. Louis to Philadelphia. He is leaving tomorrow morning, and we wish him all the best. I hope if you're listening to me and you watch this while he's on the journey, he's basically taking Route 40, but there'll be some changes. We'll keep posting his links on the Laidback Bike Report Facebook page, so you know what's going on. We'll have his link also in the description. If you're in the area where he's riding, he may need a place to stay or a meal. If you're around to help him out, that would be great. We wish him all the luck in the world. Riding to Philadelphia, good luck, Julian. We hope that our viewers will help you out on the way. So we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, I also wanted to bring you up to date on a previous guest. Matt Galat is in Hokkaido, Japan. If the name Hokkaido, Japan rings a bell, you might know it from the news because Kim Jong-un apparently keeps shooting rockets over Matt's head. He was interviewed on the BBC a couple days ago as an English speaker in Japan, in Hokkaido, that experienced a couple of alarms on his cell phone. Interesting stuff. The point is, watch Matt Galat's YouTube videos. Again, we talked about it when he was on the show. Just gorgeous shots of his touring through Japan, interesting interactions with people. The drone shots he takes from above alone are worth watching it. Matt Galat, his YouTube channel, please watch it. Jayo, Jayoe. All right, let's see. Yep. Okay. I want to give a couple of shout outs here to Carl Kidd and John Johnson, both of whom are suffering from some very severe health issues, fighting hard. We wish them both the best. So Carl and John, keep fighting, buddies. We also want to send a shout out to our viewers and sponsors who were victimized by Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. We hope you guys are recovering from that as quickly as possible. And our panelist and good friend Doug Davis, who is the only Velomobile doing the PAC tour. He had a little health issue himself after a week or so on the tour, and I think he hopes to be back on it shortly. Cross-country tour in a Velomobile, if you can believe it. I want to quickly mention also that, and we'll put it again in the links, Anna has a discount that she's offering to our viewers. If you want to read her book, go to her website and use the discount Laidback 20. Is that right? Shake your head, Anna. Laidback 20. Is that what you need? Yes. She says yes. So put Laidback 20 in the little field there that talks about gift card or gift. No, must be discount. Yeah. Anyways, you guys get the idea. Use Laidback 20 and you'll get a 20% discount on the ebook. Do it. Okay, so I want to thank our panelists. I'm not going to go to each one of you guys today. There's too many of you and the show's running long. But thanks all you guys, Bryan and Denny, Larry, Trey, Irv did a great job. Lars directing. You guys are awesome. I want to thank our special guest who has stayed with us. Anna, thank you so much for sticking with us and contributing right to the end. It's a pleasure to have you with us, of course, and all the guys that were so helpful. Appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you who are out there watching. I hope you appreciated what we had for you today. We're thankful that you watch every month, and we hope you'll keep doing that. So thanks for your support as well. Okay, please hit that subscribe, little red subscribe button down the lower left-hand corner. The information eye in the upper left-hand corner will get you more information about what we do. Like the Laidback Bike Report's Facebook page, please. Check out our website at laidbackbikereport.com. And, you know, at the website, you'll be able to find all the information about our past shows and our what's coming up and everything that's going on. I'm not going to go through all that for you now. And we also hope, if you can, Irv, go ahead down to the, yes, buy a hat if you would. Back up one there. Back up one, please. Because if we don't have Larry with his glass of wine showing the hat, then we just don't sell them. There it is. Larry, you know, thanks for modeling that so long ago. Please, folks, it'll help us out. We'll have these at the Cycle-Con show as well. A couple other things too. We'll have flags. We're going to have hats. We're going to have some shirts. Anything we can use to sell off and make some money. That's it. So, okay. Then until our next webcast from all of us here at the Laidback Bike Report. So long, Bent Riders.